We're back, and this time with the Confederacy hero roster that some of you actually did request. So thank you very much for your support. Thanks for watching that video and for clicking this one, done by a guy who has way too many hours in this faction so far since launch. Also, thank you to the Discord user LastMew again for showing me where the file path was on these, so I was able to extract these images and make this tier list. Without further ado, let me just explain briefly what we're looking at here. I went ahead and put all the heroes, well, almost all the heroes that don't count towards the build limit on the screen, just for reference, so we can, have them there. I like bounty hunters as well. They're very underused. I'll touch on them briefly later, but General Grievous, Admiral Trench, and Lustros Dauphine are on the screen already because it's not really a decision. They don't count towards the 10 out of 10 build limit. The only decision you have to make with Lustros Dauphine is, do I want to pay for him? And the answer should unequivocally be yes, because he's just all upside. He counts toward the Lucrehulk build limit, but would much rather have a guy with an Admiral bonus than a regular Lucrehulk battleship. So, yeah, that's pretty much how I've assembled the list. The C tier is perfectly fine because this mod is actually quite well balanced. You can get away with using any hero, and you're really not going to have an issue. Even on Expert, the AI is, still not comparable to human intelligence. They will try to drown you, which is why you're going to want to at least keep the S and the A tiers on your radar. The B tier is going to be backups for those if they die, which you probably will take some casualties on Expert. Even hard sometimes. The AI is wily. The devs have built around it to make it quite competent, quite deadly. You can only sing high praises for this mod. So like I said, we have almost all the free heroes here. We're going to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Hondo Ohnaka first, because he is insane value and he's relatively unknown. So if you take the world Florum in the Northeast Galaxy, sort of near Liana and Felucia, you'll find this guy, and he comes with an incredible ground complement, but also a great space complement. He has Corona frigates escorting him, and man, they are quite something. You just get an absurd amount of value with him. He comes with 4 Flare Star attack shuttles, which are fighters, well, bombers that have flares, which help deflect missiles and such. He has different weapon armament. They've got burst assault missiles instead of the standard loadout, so they can punch up. He also has a combat salvage bonus that stacks with Vulpter and the Raxus Prime salvage bonus, so you're making double money in space when you use him. He's just all upside. Oh, and I almost forgot the frigate captains. He comes with 2 Weakway mercenaries from the Black Sun roster in Awakening of the Rebellion, which means that they're the old Awakening of the Rebellion buffs that stack unilaterally all across the board. So the Admiral and Commander bonuses don't stack. You can only have one of those per fleet. But the old school Awakening of the Rebellion bonus from Frigate Captain, that does stack on top of everything. So you can use this guy in that insanely powerful frigate spam fleet. He also makes your fleet look like a proto Rebel Alliance fleet, so he would just be at the top of the S tier. But, perfect segue into the next topic, he actually doesn't even cost a build slot. So, he's under the free heroes category. Psych. He is S tier easily, effortlessly. But we built the whole list around the constraint of 10 out of 10 build limit, so figured we'd get that out of the way with somebody exciting and share a little bit of knowledge for those of you who haven't discovered Florum yet. And now, on to some more, perhaps underrated and unknown knowledge. I'm putting the Separatist Fleet Admiral, the one in the Providence, in the S tier because he's unlockable early, and he comes with an HMP gunship, which has some point defense abilities, and 2 Tri-Droids squadrons, so incredible absurd value in the beginning. Oh, and by the way, he comes with repair drones, so he's an early DH Omni. I believe you're actually hurting yourself pretty badly if you don't use at least one of these in the early game. Go trade Federation 1 early for the Providences, build one of these to get some HMPs and Tri-Droids early, and then also benefit from his different buff that he offers, which again, can't stress enough, your Admiral buffs don't stack the way they do in Awakening of the Rebellion. So the different buff Battleship Tactician, which is just a 3% bonus to all capital ships, that does stack. So with numbers being higher the way they are on the capital ships, that 3% goes further. And on top of everything else he brings to the table, he's just incredible. He's so good so early, which is something that perhaps I overvalue. I'm curious to hear your feedback. If you guys have different takes, please join that Discord server, look me up, let me know, or comment down below. And another consideration too. I suppose I'll bring up Melor Yago right now because he absolutely mogs Captain Ozzel. He just Admiral Ozzel for those of you who are thinking of the movies, but in this era he's a captain. Um, Melor Yago absolutely mogs Ozzel because he comes with a bunch of free ships, kind of like Hondo. And the fact that he's Tech 0 means that he can be unlocked early, which adds even more weight to how good he is. He's something like 15,000 credits, but he's well worth being one of your early expenses because he comes with 2 escort dreadnoughts that have ion weaponry. So that ion loadout on his 2 escorts, so they're roughly 11 tactical population each. Not really free because you're paying for it with Melor, but you can send them in to pull apart the enemy fleet, get them blown up, and you don't care. It's like you get a free 10,000 credits every time you deploy this guy. So, anyways, that ion loadout means that it comes with 2 light dual stun ion cannons, which are just great. They're good in the early game, they're good in the late game. Brace for impact, he's dreadnoughts. It's just cool to see a mix of rare ships in the Confederacy. It's cool this guy's a defector, he's got interesting lore. So, this guy you can never go wrong with. It's just always a good idea to have Melor Yago. Next up, we'll talk about the Separatist Cruiser Commander. Goes in the C tier, which I can explain my thoughts on. C tier is perfectly usable. This mod is, again, quite well balanced, so you can get away with pretty much anything. But I don't put a lot of stock in this guy past the early game. He comes with a sensor ping ability and the same 3% buff, the Tactician buff, but he is just a regular munificent. 3% is not a lot on the smaller numbers we're dealing with. And ping is not too incredible. You could use a Mankivim Starfighter Squadron and get the same result effectively. So it's just a nice early game. You know, if you get him as a mission reward, he's great. I'd keep him for a while until you can afford to replace and get a better hero. That's a perfect segue into Martuk, by the way. This guy costs 12 tactical population. He's in a munificent. I believe he's supposed to cost 13. The only thing that makes him stand out, though, is that he's in, he's got 1 point cheaper on accident. Other than that, the buffs he brings to the table are not too crazily impactful. I mean, I don't want to just list a bunch of numbers at you. I'm just going off of the general vibe, the gist of what this unit does. He doesn't do anything that another unit doesn't do better. You start with him so you can use him as long as you like, but he's probably going to die because he's in a munificent. Let's be honest, the expert AI likes to blitz you with Valiants and Venators and Dreadnoughts. Oh my. So, if you're a skilled player, you can keep him alive, but probably better off replacing him later. Now then, the next natural decision to talk about here might surprise some people because I actually put the C9799 transport in the F tier in my other video on the generic Confederacy space units. But I'm actually going to put the hero version of him in the D tier, the don't build tier, because if you get him as a mission reward, he's actually kind of okay because frigate spam is pretty viable, and he gives the tactician bonus at 3% to frigates, and he has 2,400 hull points instead of 1,200 for some reason. So hopefully it's not an oversight. Hopefully I'm not outing this and getting him nerfed, but the fact that he has double the health means that he's actually healable by DH Omnis and the Providence Admiral. So I think he's fine if you get him early as a mission reward, or if you get him late when you're over cap, that's even better. Love when that happens. Next, let's go ahead and round it out with a very disappointing unit, the fighter commander, the wing commander for the Confederacy. He is in a similar vein, in theory, to the other generic admirals, well, commanders, but sadly, he does not have a tactician bonus, so he just gives a fleet commander bonus, which may or may not stack. It has commander in it, so like admiral, it may not stack. His Belbulubs have pursuit, which is cute, but I don't see Belbulubs ever being worth one of your 10 commander build slots. And the fact that I can't guarantee he even gives your fighters a buff means that he is in the cell tier. So why would I spend 7 tactical population on a Belbulub squadron? It's like, oh, cool, it's twice the number. It's 12 Belbulubs instead of 6. But like, come on, you make me pay 7 tactical population for a fighter squadron as the Confederacy? I don't see this getting any actual play until maybe he costs less or doesn't count towards that commander build limit. I have more little treats of sort of rare game knowledge. Hopefully at this point it's rare, that I wanted to share just as a little thank you for keeping me here. Count Dooku, I'm going to put him in the free heroes. This is going to sound weird, just bear with me. He has this really cool ability called Diplomatic Immunity that makes him invincible for a short window of time. So you are playing a dangerous game using Count Dooku in combat, but he gives that commander bonus, so he can buff your other forces, and he gets basically an invulnerability. He gets temporary invulnerability that you can use to potentially cheese the AI. I just think it's cool. Like that's abusing the spirit of the game, but it seems very, very powerful to have a unit that can rush into the enemy fleet, draw a bunch of fire, go invincible, and then rush out. Like, Dooku has some hidden potential that people are definitely sleeping on, and perhaps that defies the spirit of the game, but um, I think it's funny. I think it's cool. I wanted to share it with you because that's what this list is for. So putting him in free heroes and just a little something something to keep on the back burner for later. Let's flesh out this roster a little more, put something in the A tier. Here we have Porz Toneth, who, if you've been following my campaign series, has done some incredible things. He is a strategic and tactical genius. He comes with an Admiral bonus, which is notable because the other heroes on this list that are not in the free heroes category, they only give bonuses to certain types of ships. So this guy's a buildable Admiral that comes with Vigorous, which buffs health and defense and shields at the cost of a little bit slower ability recharge, 10% speed, and minus 15% damage. So in the right kind of fleet, Porz Toneth is incredible. I like putting him with the Malevolence, just because he's cheap. He's an Irrequisite, which the Malevolence cares about point defense. He has the really good ability. So he's like a little mini Providence. He has defense shields. Well, he has power to shields, similar shield bubble ability, and that helps him stay alive too. So it's a really hard to kill Recusant, and we love Recusants, as you might know. I put one in every fleet I have, and happy to see him on defense most of the time. So Porz Toneth is in the A tier because he's not overpowered per se, but if you want to open up another front and just have another admiral somewhere, he's great for that. Oh, I lied. I think you start with him now. My old campaign, I zoned out for a sec. I believe you start with Porz Toneth now, so just know that he's not rescuable. You have to rebuild him if he dies, but you can sell him. So another consideration there for him. Next up, we have Otto, who I'm putting in the B tier for backup because he's kind of a good backup for Admiral Trench. We have a lot of good heroes that buff capital ships in the way that we like, so we're not exactly capital ship shopping for reasons that I'll explain shortly here. But if we just look at his profile, you can see that Pragmatic increases damage by 7.5%, gives you 10% faster ability recharge. There's no downside for running him, he's just not as impactful as someone like, say, General Grievous's 30% damage buff that applies to the whole fleet. So he's a low impact commander that only impacts battleships, and he pairs decently well as an alternate with the next hero we're going to talk about here. And that next hero is Mirai, or Mirai, however you say it. He's the Mon Cala hero for Commerce Guild 3. So by the time you get him, it's going to be the extreme late game, but he is simply incredible. He comes with 6 total Starfighter squadrons, of which 2 are Condors, 2 are Poraxes, deployable Poraxes, that's crazy, and 2 Tri-Fighter squadrons. So he comes with 1 squadron more than the regular DH Omni, and on top of that, he's got, an insane complement inside of there, and all of his hardpoints are built in. 2 heavy 5-burst concussion missiles and 8 medium laser cannons. It's not bad for DH Omni. But what's really notable is his protective battleship commander ability. So he only influences battleships, which is actually quite good, because you can put him somewhere, like with the Malevolence or the Subjugator. We'll do a battleship, we'll do a traits combo video later, but a little sneak peek of my ideas here. The fact that he only influences one type of ship, and that type of ship tends to be tanks. Protective gives 25% health, 15% defense, 30% shields, at the cost of 30% damage, 15% speed, and 10% slower ability recharge. So that's a very impactful bonus on a selective group of units. We use Providences to tank anyways, and Bulwarks are quite durable as well with their brace for impact. So this guy by himself is absolutely nuts. But when you pair him with someone like Cyborg Trench, who we'll talk about just after this, when you pair him with someone like Grievous or a Cyborg Trench, it cancels out, yeah, but you're still getting a net balance of 10% ability recharge roughly. You're still getting some speed, 5% speed, I think, but you're netting that 25% health just free. Like there's nothing detracting from that because the defense cancels out perfectly with Ruthless. And then you get access to his repair drones and his project shield ability, which is way, way better than what you might think if you haven't seen him deployed before. It's a shield that goes around your whole fleet, and it's just so good. In a way, I think it might be responsible for enabling Confederacy frigate spam. I'm gonna need to try frigate spam without Marai just to see if he's the reason it's possible. So. But just know that a frigate fleet behind these shields with protected battleship commander buffing battleships that you don't care if they're debuffed anyways, it's really, really good. Yeah, Marai is phenomenal. And going into Cyborg Trench, here's another little juicy treat of info. If Admiral Trench dies, he's a major hero, so he's rescuable. But he comes back with the Ruthless Battleship Commander trait. So he keeps pragmatic, so he keeps his no downsides one, but he gives Ruthless to battleships, which is really sweet, because that makes him the perfect partner for Marai in a way. It's also just some cool tactical flexibility, so it's like, okay, your battleships are already fairly durable, let's make him hit a little harder. Let's have those missiles he has, which are better than the standard complement, hit even harder on top of that. So, I just love it. It's a cool Easter egg. When you send Trenched off to die on purpose, which maybe you should do, that's when you use auto. There's just a lot of considerations here. Or you could just use Marai without a babysitter. He's pretty great on his own. I don't know if he even needs to buff battleships to be outstanding. Next up, we'll talk about the huge disappointment that is Geyser Ordelso. We're putting him in Don't Build because his bonuses are actively a detriment to your fleets, and I hate that because I tried to make him work. I really did, I promise. The burst plasma missiles on Pinnacle frigates are pretty good, but these things are really fragile. They're made of glass. And his buffs aren't worth it. Disciplined frigate commander, very low impact. 5% damage, 5% speed. Who cares? That's a very low impact ability. Now, Vigorous wing commander, 17.5% health at the cost of 15% damage. I guess you get 10% defense and 7.5% shields, but wing commander, like come on, look at Confederacy fighters and tell me that your 8 shields and 8 hull on the Scarab needs a 17% bonus. This is counterintuitive to the philosophy of the Confederacy, which I suppose this is a good time to talk about General Grievous at the same time. Grievous is outstanding because he buffs starfighters and cruisers at 30% damage. That's really the only thing that matters. The ability to recharge is pretty sweet too, but Ruthless is just so good because the doctrine of the Confederacy, cheap fighters that hit hard, and then you got point defense and missile defense stuff, and then you have Munificence in the back shooting, and Lupus missile frigates and such, but you want to deal a lot of damage from behind the lines and then have guys soaking damage. Vigorous Wing Commander, you're debuffing one of your key glass cannon units. So if he did not have Vigorous Wing Commander, he would be C tier. Just because, having an extra Nantex, a couple Nantex Squadron fighters, and the Pinnacle wouldn't be the worst thing. You can spam them kind of okay in frigate fleets. But I don't know, just target lock doesn't make him worth that massive debuff to your fighters. Like you don't need durability on Confederacy fighters. That's why he's in the don't build tier. So sad to see it, but he is actively working against how your starfighters are supposed to work, in my opinion. Let me know if you disagree. Been talking a lot about starfighters, so might as well switch now to talking about Toph and Vane here. He's going in the A tier because you can never go wrong with him. He's in a capture carrier, and he comes with this incredible supplement drop ability, which just enables so much. I mean, in the earlier builds, supplement drop, he didn't actually have it, and he was still good. He also comes with a Mankavim squadron, which are the scout fighters, a Porax squadron, which are incredible because they have that missile defense ability, and a Belbulib squadron, which are the best interceptors in the Confederacy. Really durable, hard-hitting ships. His fighter complement is absolutely lethal. The free Porax is so good, and the Cunning Wing Commander, all upside. He gives you 25% reveal range, on your already impressive Mankavim that he comes with, reveal range. So he enables your Munificence. He gives you 15% damage, 15% speed, 25% faster ability recharge. I like pairing this guy with Por's Tonith because he cancels out the fighter damage debuff. So like, remember how I was just trashing the previous hero Geyser? This guy makes it so your starfighters are dealing 100% damage again, but they stay extra durable. And then he also, gives Por's Tonith a faster ability recharge so he can spam that shield. I just think that's a great combo. Really enjoy using it. Tophen Vane is great. You can't go wrong with him, but you're not actually hurting yourself if you don't use him, hence why he's an A instead of S tier. Next up, we have Volan Das, who I'm a little conflicted about. He might deserve to be an S tier. This is a hard one because I was thinking about it a lot. He has Ruthless Wing Commander, which is everything that we want from our starfighters. But he only comes with, this is going to sound crazy, but he comes with 3 Tri-Droid starfighters, which is crazy. And when our complements are nerfed later on Providences and Captors advanced loadouts, he will become more critical. He'll probably reach S tier at that point. But right now, it's easy enough to spam Droid Tri-Fighters that you don't really need him per se. Having 3 extra ones is great, but he comes at Techno Union 2, which you're probably going to be researching near last. So by the time he's unlocked, I mean, he literally unlocks at the same time as capture carriers that come with Tri-Droids. So just generic capture carriers. He's not really offering anything special. It's just now that he has the supplement drop ability working as intended, and 3 Tri-Fighters, as well as deep reserves. We forgot to mention that Marai, Tophen Vane, and this guy all have really deep Starfighter reserves. So this guy's got 3 and 9. that's crazy. That's a lot of Tri-Fighters. But now that supplement drop works, he is worth considering. But honestly, I prefer Tophen Vane personally because of the Porax 38s and the Belbulibs, if I'm being honest. They look sweet. They're like space hot rods. But, to each their own. He's definitely A tier. He's definitely A tier. Possibly S tier later when Tri-Droids become more rare. Next up, we're going to talk about TF-1726. I just like to touch on the Auxilia Cruiser again because I love them. Putting him in C tier because he doesn't really have anything that, no one else offers. He's not unique. His bonus is relatively weak. I mean, it's not detrimental, but Bold Cruiser Commander is just 5% health, 7.5% damage. There's just low numbers across the board. Shields and ability recharge as well. And he doesn't have any special weapons or abilities. So kind of just generic. He's also Techno Union 2, which is regrettable because that's kind of, one of the ones you research later. So by the time you get him, it's going to be like, well, do I need him? I mean, to be fair, the regular Auxilia is also Tech 2, but why do you need to spend a commander getting another one? Truth is, you sadly don't. So that's why he's in C tier. He's not bad, he's not good either. Next up, let's talk about Kali Trilum, or Trilm, however you say it. I'm putting her in the backup tier because she is an inspiring frigate commander, but there is a better frigate commander, arguably better frigate commander that we're going to talk about in a moment. Kind of eats up her one of the 10 build slots. She's really, really good, and if you like defense, I think she might be the way to go for you because she has this incredible missile jam ability. But other than that, she's just a regular Fantail Destroyer, which, while quite exceptional, she is unlocked fairly late. Commerce Guild 3. Actually, that's Commerce Guild 2. Misspoke. So she does come out a little before the regular Fantails, which is kind of notable. But, I would consider her back up to the next one we're going to talk about, who is Rift Tamsin Sharkman. This guy is absolutely crazy because he comes with free ships just the same way that Melor Yago does, except his are Dynamo Escort frigates, which are notoriously fragile. They die constantly, but you get 2 free ones. So you get to run up to your enemies, stun them, and not only that, but you get to hit them with missiles that are way harder than the regular complement. So these things come with 2 of the heavy 3 burst assault missiles, which the regular ones, I think they're medium. Should have probably looked. Let me check real quick. The regular ones are. Oh, shoot. Fumbling through it here. Yeah, the regular ones, I just found them. Sorry about the delay. The regular ones are just 2 of the 4 burst assault missiles. So Rift Tamsin is hitting considerably harder. He's bringing free ships, which is insane value. Definitely deserving of being an S tier. And then, of course, the bonus, which we almost, forgot to talk about because we were excited. Audacious Frigate Commander. Inspiring is great on cruisers and probably would be on battleships if there was one that I was aware of, but Audacious Frigate Commander is better because it's 20% damage compared to Kali Trillim's 10%. So you really want your frigate fleet to be hitting as hard as possible. You're usually willing to pay that minus 10 defense because it synergizes better with Mirai or whoever else you're using it with. You just want damage, just trust me. You're bringing healing, you can take the defense hit in exchange for 10% faster ability recharge, 10% speed, and 20% damage, which just makes this guy better synergy overall than throwing Kali Trillim in. Hence why she's his backup. When he dies, because he's fragile, I'm going to say when he dies, you can replace him with Kali Trillim for that 25 weeks, and you can't go wrong. It won't hurt you. Well, that much. Next up, we have the Bothan Karask Vetlia, and he's notable because he has the Fire Mag Pulse abilities missile. As far as I'm aware, he's the only source of that in this mod, and it does a lot of damage. However, I don't think that makes him particularly notable. His actual hero bonus is weak, so we're going to put him in the backup tier again. So let's be honest, you're probably going to need a good number of, backup commanders. If we're being honest, mine die semi-regularly. So he has aggressive cruiser commander, which is 7.5% damage, which is okay. It's not the worst. This guy used to be mission reward. I don't think he is anymore. But the other stuff you don't really care that much about. Minus 5 defense. Are we even going to notice? Probably not. 5% speed. Probably not going to notice. Really, what you're thinking about is the Mag Pulse missiles. I don't know if that's worth the build slot or not, but I do think it's better than Martuk. Hence why he is in the B tier / backup tier. I would definitely take him over Martuk because he himself, even though he buffs cruisers, isn't a frigate. And frigates are buffed by some of the cheese we're looking to try in one of our future videos. Well, demonstrate in our future videos. Thing I'm curious to add on to is to see if it's doable without Mirai, is what I should say. Anyways, getting close to the end here. What's left are the 2 difficult to distinguish droids from each other. Like, which one's which? One's got red and yellow eyes. So the bad one is the yellow-eyed one. TJ912, the yellow-eyed one. He is in a recusant with Brace for Impact, which would be cool if it wasn't for the fact that he's subtracting from our damage. So the minus 5% damage he deals with, I know I'm being a hypocrite. We usually don't care about 5%, but the fact that it's on damage means that we actually do care. I mean, losing damage on your cruisers, like, these are what we want to have being, the main damage dealers of most fleets. Munificents come to mind, Auxilia Pursuit Destroyers come to mind. If we could build bulwarks, or I mean dreadnoughts rather, if we could build dreadnoughts like the Republic, like Meloriago has, this might be considerable. But this is potentially. Did I misread this? I swear it used to say cruisers. He just says Cautious Admiral, which means he's got an Admiral bonus on him. We have gotten far down on the list here. If he's a Cautious Admiral, I still stand by what he said. It's a very small discount, but he may be worth checking out for that Brace for Impact ability. Brace for Impact is pretty huge. In any case, Cautious Admiral, very low impact. 5% minus damage on everything actually is kind of worse, now that I think about it. Yeah, I don't know. He's just a low impact. You can try him if you want, but I don't think he's going to be, winning the war for us. Next up will be TV94, his red-eyed counterpart. I think TV94 is a little bit better. Pretty average. Nothing really remarkable to write home about. But I guess he has 2 hyenas, 2 hyena squadrons, which is actually maybe kind of impactful. Being able to spam these with your unupgraded provenances might be something. And he gains power to engines, which is whatever, but his trait is the one that's cruiser commander only, and it adds to damage, 7.5% damage. So He buffs your munificence. In a pinch, I suppose he's good. These two heroes both come from Commerce Guild 2, so they're directly competing for the same slot. I don't see a world where I choose to build someone who isn't Porous Toneth, who debuffs my damage. At least Porous Toneth provides noticeable buffs to defense, other than just health. So, I don't know. Not anything crazy here. And that would be the end if we hadn't decided to get cheeky here and put Ventress on here. So Ventress has the Jedi abilities in space, and she's kind of comparable to a bounty hunter, but she's fragile, unique, doesn't take up a build slot, and hard to replace. So don't actually recommend putting her in space. Just wanted to mention that. She has 2 medium repeating lasers, a ton of health, and the ability, as we mentioned, the Force ability is Force Missile Jammer and Force Repair. But even with 60 shield and 40 haul, she's still going to be dying fairly quickly, so definitely not worth risking. Count Dooku probably isn't either, but if you want to be, cheeky, something fun to maybe try. Speaking of cheeky, the last thing we have here on this list is Newt Gunray. Even though he isn't an administrator, believe me, I checked all the other admins and senators. This guy here has a notable complement here in space. So he counts for the admin build slot, so in a way he's free. But usually admins aren't combat heroes, so he's kind of just an extra one to fight with. The Lucrehulk that he starts with is actually terrible, in truth. It's missing half of its armament, and it has weaker stats. I believe it has less hull points, but it's kind of fun. You can trade with him. He makes you 400 credits per turn, makes massive shipments if your freighters are working in your save. And in a pinch, you can pull him up into orbit and help defend if you see him in your neighborhood while he's freighting. So, worth considering, something to think about. As promised, just wanted to bring attention to the bounty hunters here because I think it's really cool. They're kind of equivalent to Jedi, it's just their contract expires, which is kind of disappointing. But if anything, that should encourage you to use them more recklessly, since we can only have 2, but there's 4 available. Just throw any of them up into space. Like Cad Bane, for example, he has a modified Porax 38. Again, Poraxes are very powerful ships. It's worth considering. You need somebody to throw into combat. Maybe his contract's about to expire. It's cool to have something to counter a Jedi in space. They're quite good. Even Bossk here. Bossk pilots a modified YV-6666 light freighter, the Hound's Tooth. Embo is in a Flare Star attack shuttle, which come with flares. They're great. Just really good ships. Maybe I'll mix him with Hondo. And oh wow, Aurra Sing actually has Boba Fett's ship. We can't say the name anymore. You know how it is. But it's the modified Fire Spray 31 patrol craft. That is curious. It's got the same name as Boba Fett's old ship. I've never actually used this one before in space. I've used her on the ground quite a bit, and she's very good. But Aurra Sing, definitely gonna have to do some testing on that craft she's got. Maybe it has some kind of mind dropping ability. But yeah, I wanted to bring that to your attention so you could maybe experiment with them. Let me know in the comments. And thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your time if you're still here, and your support, and your clicks, and all that fun stuff. Your likes, your comments. Just let me know what you think. Let me know either how wrong I am, how much you agree. Maybe you were sleeping on the Separatist Fleet Admiral. I actually am really quite curious to hear, so thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.